Hey guys, thanks for joining me again. Today, I'm going to try to discuss a little bit about our thoughts on lights, lasers, combos, and how to set up your holster in your everyday carry. So, the first question we get asked a lot of times is, should I get a light or a laser? Now my reaction to that is it too much to ask for both? You already know that you want a laser. It's not too much of a big deal. It's generally speaking not that much more expensive to get a light laser combo if you're looking towards more of the budget side. OLED actually has several options that have lasers built into the flashlight, and we make holsters for several of them. We'll be making more down the road later this year. Stay tuned for that. So, our first question, should I get a light or a laser? For me, I would say both is probably the better option. Now, if you have to pick a light or a laser, at that point you have some philosophy and training level and a little more other things to consider. The laser is more of a aiming aid at close range. Because of that, there's a very big difference between what a light and laser does, and it all boils down to what your priority is. Maybe you're not to the training level you want to be at, and so having a laser will help you aim at a close range. That's a perfectly valid reason to want a laser. Now, maybe you would want a flashlight, obviously to see in the dark. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to shoot at what I can't see. Well, in the concealed carry world, if you're using your light to identify a target, you probably shouldn't have your gun out. There's a whole host of arguments on that. But for me personally, I would always want to have a flashlight. What are the advantages to having a light laser or no attachment? Now, for the first and foremost example, for concealability, if you are trying to conceal and concealment is your top priority, I would recommend going with no attachment. Your holster is going to be more compact, it's going to be easier to conceal, it's also going to be more comfortable. Those are kind of your pros for not running an attachment with your concealment holster. Now, if you are not concealing, if you're getting an outside the waistband or you're getting one of our Apex series for more of a duty use or tactical use, at that point there really is no justification for going for a more compact size. I could see an argument for weight, but the amount of size difference you're going to get when you have a light laser, when you're talking an outside the waistband, there really isn't much of an argument in my opinion. For me, I will always have a light on my gun if that's at all possible. If you're in the midst of a struggle, you're tangled up with somebody, you're at close range, maybe you just push a dude off you, it's really good to be able to have that laser on there and you can just kind of paint your target and you can just kind of point and shoot. You can also aim at better, more non-traditional angles when you can't get your sights lined up. For example, you're laying on your back, you're under a car. There are some advantages to having a laser. Now keep in mind that a laser is not the end-all be-all. The laser is not going to be 100% zero. The cons of having a flashlight for your inside the waistband holster. The biggest concern is it's going to be a larger, more uncomfortable, and more difficult to conceal. Those are going to be your two biggest disadvantages. There are some very small flashlight options. For example, we have the Surefire XC1. This is a very compact light. Another option, which is the Balder Pro R, as you can see, that's much longer. It's much bigger, and that's going to make concealing a lot more difficult. But it is a brighter light, it has a better runtime, and this particular light also has a laser attached to it. So as you can see, and then for comparison, we put the XC1 on there, you have a much smaller profile. Mission dictates gear. Why am I carrying? What is the environment that I'm carrying in? Am I doing more than just carrying? Am I carrying concealed? Am I in an active role where I am more likely to use my firearm? All these are things to consider when choosing your setup. At the end of the day, this all boils down to personal preference. These are my opinions about always wanting to have a light and having a laser as well, if that's an option. But it all boils down to what you feel comfortable with, what works good for your system, what works good for your training level. What works for me may not work for you. Also to keep in mind, it does take a while to get used to carrying a holster. If you're not used to carrying a gun, putting it on for the first time, it's going to be uncomfortable. For example, for me, when I first started carrying Appendix, it was uncomfortable for probably about a month. And then now I'm used to it and I can't stand any other way of inside the waistband carry. Well, thank you all very much for your time. I hope you were able to learn something from this video. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information can be found in the description of the video. And as always, stay strapped.